do you want to do business with us? Because this company over here that's wanting to remove 50 links and we've removed 5 for free, it's like, I could go back and forth with them all day long trying to justify how we can do the job, sending them reviews, rah, rah, rah. Or I could just remove content and prove the concept to them by removing the content that is causing them pain.
Hey guys, this is another episode of the podcast. Thank you so much for checking in. I really appreciate your time. Today I have a really interesting episode. Today I have Frankie Lee. How I initially came across you, Frankie, was that I was sort of watching a bunch of interviews like Iman Gadzhi, a few people from Australia, and then that's how your podcast came up, and you've interviewed like a bunch of like big guests, and I've been a big fan of your podcast. I guess please introduce yourself and tell me and the audience a bit about yourself, Frankie.
I suppose, well, first things first, thank you very much for inviting me on and you know, letting me share my journey with you guys. But essentially, I suppose you picked up my content in Australia mainly and Dubai and things like that. I've been going around the world for the last 3.5 years, interviewing some of the guests, like you say, Iman Gadzhi and the likes, Davey Fogarty, and who owns the Hoodie and other people like that. But I guess my journey started back in the UK. I was brought up here, middle class type family, and you know, when you're brought up in that environment, I think the thing when you leave school, your logical decision is to go into the job, into the workforce. So I did that. I did the apprenticeship, did carpentry and joinery as an apprentice, and once I'd qualified as a carpenter and done all that razzmatazz, I realized that the narrative, so to speak, that society brings you into isn't something I want to live on my day-to-day life. It's as simple as that. Like I realized after, I knew from when I was 18, 19, when coming out the back of that apprenticeship, that if I kept doing this 40 hours a week, I was never going to get to where I wanted to go to or experience some of the things I wanted to see in life. So after doing that for a few years and saving for the house deposit and doing what society taught me to do and buying my first property and all that stuff and putting myself in debt doing that, I thought there's got to be a better way. And that's kind of when I decided to, I needed to, I learned a lesson, and the lesson I learned was this, that if you want more than what you've already got in life, you have to change your environment. And that environment change for me was Australia.
What brought you to Australia? You said you sort of stayed in Australia for 8 years. Like, what brought you to Australia and what allowed you to stay there for 8 years?
So what brought me to Australia was the fact that it sounds cliche, but I was watching you guys have the lifestyle that you have in Australia on TV, and it's just something that's always appealed to me. I was watching Bondi Rescue and dumb stuff like that, and it's like seeing that abundance of lifestyle that it just appealed to me. Like that was something that I'd always wanted to live, and always knew that there's something more to life, and Australia kind of had it for me. And honestly, I remember getting there, and I arrived at Brisbane initially, and Brisbane wasn't exactly like Brisbane now. is not too bad, but Brisbane back 8-9 years ago was a bit. I was like, this is just like a warmer version of London, but it's not very good, very boring. But when I got to the Gold Coast, that's when I was like, wow, this is the lifestyle I want to live. And it just I think when you're around that environment where you're in an abundant country, you're around the sunshine, there's good energy, there's good opportunities, it's highly affluent, it just changes your whole perspective on how you view life. And I think Australia is the lucky country. It's the luckiest one in the world, in the Western world anyway, for sure.
Interesting. So you sort of started in UK, you got a job, you sort of got a mortgage, you got a house, then you're like, hey, there should be more to life. So you bought a one-way ticket to Australia, you landed in Brisbane. What happened next?
So I landed in Australia with $6,000, a bag of clothes, a pair of boxing boots, and a pair of boxing gloves, and that's all I had. And when I went through that initial period, I burnt through a lot of that cash, because I didn't, even though I'd landed in Australia and I was in a different environment, I didn't know any different than swapping my personal time for money. So when that's the narrative that as a human, and you've never known any other narrative. You don't know anything about creating value and then charging on value based or nothing like that. So you just know that I swapped this hour for this much money. Well, in Australia, you can swap your hour for more money than you can in the UK. And I was used to that narrative. So I went out and spent, 3,000 of the $6,000 on tools. I paid a couple of $1,000s for a car, and then it came to me getting a job. Well, I was out in the market trying to get a job as a carpenter, and you needed all these different tickets and transfer qualifications, and I couldn't get that. So I went working as a tiling labourer, and I went working for 3 weeks in Australia as a tiling labourer. And I remember driving from, I was in the Gold Coast at this point, driving from the Gold Coast to Logan to do this tiling job. And I drove there for 3 weeks, and it was only $21 an hour the guy promised to pay me. And when I got to the end of the 3 weeks work, the guy went off and never paid me the money. So now I'm left. This was my first time that I was broke abroad. And I was broke, and I was like, I can't even afford to feed myself. And that's when I went on to I managed to get my mate help. I was living off peanut butter and bread and apples, mate. It was a crazy bit, but I wouldn't change it because it taught me so much about there has to be a better way than this. Because you think about that as a narrative, right? I am trading my time for a fixed amount of money. So I'm telling the world, or I'm accepting from the world, that this is what I'm worth, when what we're worth as humans is an infinite amount. So that's the first thing I learned. The second thing I learned was I'm letting someone else dictate my reality, right? And that's not a narrative you want to get into, because that will make you feel disempowered. And because of those two things that I've just stated, I'm now left there, and I feel like I'm waiting for the world to give me something, rather than me going out and taking whatever I want from this abundant world we live in, because we're not taught it's abundant. We're taught we're in lack. We're taught we're in loss. We're taught that the money's a problem. All these things are taught. So that's when I first started to experience. I was like, wow, this is, and I didn't fully realize or encapsulated the way that I said it, but I could start to realize, okay, there's more to this than what I previously thought. And I can't live like this. So then I went into I thought, well, if an hour of my time's worth this much money working as a laborer, it's obviously worth more as a carpenter. So I've just lost all this money, and I was now in lack. So now I'm feeling like a lack of everything, a lack of money, a lack of abundance in my life. But I thought, well, if my time's worth this much as a laborer, it's obviously worth more as a carpenter. And when I started to look at carpentry jobs then were paying $30 an hour. But there was this job that was called a shop fitter, which is a classic, obviously, job title, that we never called it shop fitting. There wasn't really a difference in pay in shop fitting in the UK compared to carpentry. But by changing my job title to shop fitter, which I was more than qualified to do, I took my hourly rate from 30 to 50. Okay, so now I've got a job on a labour hire firm when I was for $50 an hour by just calling myself a shop fitter. So I learned to add value to myself straight away by changing the title, even though the skills didn't change. So then I went on the path of doing this and went down this whole path of that. And the things that I learned from these little 1% things all the way through was like, to change your narrative, you only need to do these little 1% things, and it changes the dollars on the other end very quickly. So that applies to all areas of business, all areas of life, sales, everything. And it's just something that's always stuck with me.
Interesting. So you went ahead and you learned how to sort of climb that sort of 9 to 5, or sort of keep increasing your value as an employee. How many years did you go ahead and do that when you came to Australia? How long were you sort of a store fitter?
I went shop fitting all around Australia on labour hire, and in the $50, $60, $70 an hour. labor hire all around Australia. I did Louis Vuitton, I did Zara, I did Givenchy, I done Superdry, I did every store you can imagine. I was fitting out Gucci's as well, Tiffany stores, all mainly high-end fashion in the end. And I was getting paid anywhere between $6,000 to $10,000 a week working hours. You know what I mean? So it was putting in a hell of a lot of hours. I was practically living there and sleeping not very much. To pull that type of cash. But after doing that for 2 years, I realized that your environment is everything. And I realized that everyone around me was miserable. They were breaking up with their wives. They were alcoholics. They were abusive. They were toxic. There was very negative energy. Everyone was angry. And that was when I first learned, okay, your environment is everything, and money can't be your only thing. It has to be a North Star, but it can't be, you can't put everything just into money. Because my fitness started to go, because obviously I've always been around boxing and around fitness in the gym, and that was something that was very passionate to me. So in the end, I had all this surplus cash, and I thought, well, I'll set up the boxing gym that I've always dreamed of setting up. And that's where I made my next entrepreneurial mistake, because the barber will set up the barber shop, the nail technician will set up the beauty salon, the pro boxing trainer will set up the boxing gym. We all set up businesses in our little niches, but we forget the one key thing. Does it scale? Can you get yourself out of being the business itself, and can you exit it? And does this business that you're setting up have enough capacity to scale to the level where you can leverage and move forward? And this, through this boxing gym, where I was again I'm now swapping my time for less money, and when you put money next to your passion, right? Because people say, chase what you're passionate about, which is absolute bullshit, because that will never generate you the capital that you need in order to be able to leave the, whether you term it the matrix or the life. I'm now in there swapping, I'm knackering myself out physically still, getting now, $50 every hour intermittently, cancellations of clients, this, that, and the other. So I've took myself from earning $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 a week to $1,000 a week scraping by again, sending myself broke, chasing what I'm passionate about. And it was through this that my life changed, because what I learned was, well, I had a client come into the gym, a very wealthy businessman on the Gold Coast that I'm still friends with now. And he was overweight. And he taught me that because he made all these millions, and he came into the gym and he taught me, you can make all this money, but if you haven't got your physical health, if your physical vessel isn't in shape, it's no good. And he was about 28, 30 stone. So we got about 10 stone off him. And through this process, what I didn't realize was, as I was coaching him on the pads and teaching him footwork and moving around boxing and getting him fit, he's teaching me business. He's teaching me mindset. He's teaching me all these different things that I had never picked up on. And I didn't really give it credit until one day he said to me, Frankie, do you read? And I said, I've not read a book since school. And even then it was just like children's books and all this crap. I've not read. He said, he gave me 2 books to read. He said, read Think and Grow Rich and read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And when I read those 2 books, it's like a switch went in my head. And then I started to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then I started to read The Way of the Superior Man, and all these different, I started to add all these different books in, and they started to teach me things about myself and about my situation and how I could change it. And he said to me one day, he goes, because he obviously knew I was struggling. He said to me one day, he goes, I think you need to learn sales. If you learned sales, you'd free yourself, because it's a job that's an entrepreneurial job, because you've got an uncapped potential of income. So rather, you've learned through this and you've learned through the other stuff that the job isn't the way forward. You know that. But if you're going to have a job which is going to teach you skills, you need to be a salesman, because then you've got uncapped potential while still being in the framework of the of what we're talking about. And so I went and got a job with him, and he taught me for like 3 or 4 weeks how to sell, and then he put me on. And then after a week or 2 weeks, he's like, "Look, mate, this isn't working. You're shit. You're just not getting it. I don't know what, you won't read the script. You won't do this. You won't do that." So he sacked me. Him sacking me was the best thing that ever happened in my entire life to this point, because I thought to myself, so I took the little bit of money that I had, and I bought a pirated copy of the Straight Line System by Jordan Belford. And I watched it and indoctrinated myself in this straight line system. And I went into the gym, and there was another lad in the gym, and he had an internet company that was a startup, and he offered me a job selling reputation management. And I went into this job, and I saw the way that they were doing it, and some of the salespeople that they were doing it, and they were selling like 15, 20 grand a month each, small figures. And within, I think I was in like 3, 4, 5 months, I was selling 100 grand a month every month. And I was a top sales guy, and I was selling celebrities and brands and everything. And it was just mental how my mindset had flipped from reading, from seeing the opportunity as it was, from learning how to sell, and from having to take radical action, because I had no family in the country. I had no backup. I had no support. When you take yourself out of this environment that's comfortable to you, and you throw yourself in a bear pit, and you've got to fight your way out of it, you don't have any choice. You don't have time to be depressed, or to be down, or to be out, or to be beaten. It's because you don't know where your next meal's coming from, essentially, because you've put yourself in such a vulnerable position because of how you've lived. You're living in someone else's backyard. And after a few months of that, I realized, right, I've got all the tools that I need to set up my own company. And I went out on my own from there.
How many years in were you at this point in Australia?
I arrived in Australia in 2014. In July 2014, I arrived in Australia. And the summarized battles of everything I've just told you happened September the 17th, I think it was, about 2017. I launched contentremoval.com. And that point there was when was really when I started to move, because I launched contentremoval.com, and I realized through looking after people's reputations online, working as a sales company, that we were selling reputation management. So we were selling SEO push down, we were selling all this other stuff, right? But I realized that the clients would be better off if they could remove the content. And whilst I was thinking this and going through this in my mind, I bought contentremoval.com. And I bought it on GoDaddy. I couldn't believe it was available. It was $650. I spent half of my commission that week on buying this domain name, shelved it, put it there. My thought process being was, because I was such a good sales guy for this company, I thought maybe I can, because I've been reading books about creating, if you create this much value as a salesman in a company, you can get cut into the equity of the company. So my mindset was, sell like crazy so that you can get a piece, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% or 10% working up into this startup business, because then you've got your equity stake, and you've got and you run the sales teams. That's what my mindset's thinking, right? Because I'm reading these books. I'm constantly reading now how to maneuver myself into the position by adding value to the world. See, a lot of people, they want more value out of the world, but they're not really looking at how they can add more value to it. Because if you want to take 10% of value back, or 1% of value back to yourself, you have to be putting in 100%, offering 100% to someone else, essentially, to be able to claim back that 10%. So this is my mindset because of my reading and I'm going through. But when it came down to it, and I wanted to be cut into equity, and I pitched that positioning to because I was in the position to do it, because I was outselling essentially a 5-man sales team. I was outselling it on my own. So I'm now in the position to say, cut me in for an equity. But when I put the position through, I think I put the position through at between 5 to 10 I was looking for. And I think they offered something like between 0.25 and 1% is what they offered of a startup. And I could not, that was the permission for me to go, do you know what? I've just got to rock and roll on my own, because the only way I can control my destiny is if I take it in my own hands. Even at 1%, even if that thing's worth $1 billion, I'm in 10 years' time, I'm still locked into working X amount of hours. I'm locked into going into an office. I'm locked into doing this, and this, and this. It's just not the narrative that I want to live. It's not my game. So I thought, well, so I left. And the reason I left at that particular time is because I'd gone in there on a temporary contract. Well, not even a contract. I'd gone in there on my own. And it has got to the point where if I signed the contract to stay there as a permanent employee, I would now be in a non-compete, because I'm in reputation management. I'd have a non-compete there where I couldn't get into the thing. So it's like, either sign that and accept that you're an employee and you're a sales guy and you might get 1%, or you could risk it for a chocolate biscuit over here and go all in and go into this company and just have a go. Bearing in mind, I don't know how to remove content at this point. I have no idea. It's just a concept in my mind, right? I don't have any clients, and I don't know how to get clients other than to do what I'm doing, cold outreach, just chance it. So one of the things that I did at that company, which everyone else wasn't doing, everyone else was taking warm and cold leads and selling like to companies that needed their Google reviews tidied up or whatever. And I thought, well, these little businesses have small amount of money. If we started to sell to celebrities, to big brands, to governments, these kind of people for reputation management, they got more budget, which means they can pay more money. So that's why I'd established at this company. So when I left, and I'm now sat there, and bearing in mind, for some reason I'd not stacked a lot of cash. I practically I'd probably had about $5,000 in the bank. And I'd just come, and while I was thinking about this, I'd gone away to the UK. I'd sold like crazy whilst I was in England, still selling this reputation management, but while I was abroad, to test from selling anywhere in the world. And when I came back, I had about $5,000 in my bank. I didn't have a place to live, right? So my mate said to me, I had some good friends. My mate said to me, you can start your new company and you can stay in my boat behind my house. So the first day of contentremoval.com, I'm sat there in this boat, calling myself a director, a CEO, like we all do when we start a company, you know, the business card mentality bullshit. And I'm sat there in this boat, and we're just bobbing along, and I've got no clients, no idea how to remove content. And I'm thinking, how do I even sell this concept? How do I even do it? And then serendipitously, that there were two or three of one of my girlfriends calls me, and she says, someone's put my images and videos online. Obviously, she'd been in a previous relationship. She'd been targeted by what they term as revenge porn. And two of her other mates had been dealing with this revenge porn too. And they were struggling to remove the content, and they knew I worked in reputation management, didn't know. So I did a free job where I helped them remove all their images, videos, all this kind of stuff from this Anon website. And I just learned it on the job, and we removed the content, and she became my first referral review, so to speak, that went on my website. And then I was thinking, great, I've proved the concept that contentremoval.com works, because I'm called contentremoval.com, and now I'm a man that has actually removed a piece of content from the internet. But then I thought, my position, I can't work for girls that are going through just like low end revenge porn, because they can't pay me the massive fees that I want. They got no, they don't have the money that I need. You need affluent clients to pay you large sums of capital, so that you don't need many clients, but you can earn large amounts of money by still servicing the market, right? And this is something that dawned on me, and I was like, well, everyone else is starting at the small businesses, dealing with Google reviews bullshit. That's a real shark infested red pond. Everyone's there fighting over small ticket clients, $1,500 a month, $2,000. I thought, fuck that. That is not going to get me where I need to go. I need 3 to 5 clients, $500,000 a year business as quickly as possible. That's kind of in my mind. So then I made a list of the top of the niches that I liked, but that could also pay the capital. One of those niches was like fashion. One of the niches was fitness. And a couple of other niches as well. And I put together all the top influencers and people in that space, but that were just under the, but were contactable. So I looked at, I specialized in social media people that were very famous, but were very contactable. And then I made a list of about 15 to 20, predominantly women in the space, because the women were highly targeted and not well defended online. And then I went and I after about 3 weeks, I'd signed my first deal, where I took on this top celebrity in fitness. And I signed the deal for a year. After I'd moved, I said, I'll remove some content for you, and that qualifies you to sign this contract if I remove this content. So they gave me like up to 12 links. We removed the content, and it unlocked, because the way I'd structured the contract, it unlocked 132 grand's worth of work, right? So instantly, one client, 132 grand business. Unlocked another 100K. Now I've got 232 grand. Yeah. Unlocked another 100K. Now I've got 332 grand a year in business, right? Unlocked another. You see where I'm going? So I thought to myself, fuck starting at the bottom, fuck starting small. Let's start at the higher echelon of clients. Let's start to go after the names that can pay. There's no price objections, no this, that, and the other. And you can just quote, you want to be quoting. I realized you want to be selling services online. You want to be clipping 10, 15Ks a month on retainer basis until you're at $500,000 upwards, so that you can then breathe. Because at that level, you can start to breathe, you can start to move. There's perhaps you and a virtual assistant that's running that kind of company. It's bob and weave, and you can start to move forward. And that's kind of how I evolved. And I obviously took myself from, let's just put it in perspective. I was earning £20,000 a year in England as a carpenter and joiner, working 10-hour days. And now I've got $350,000 a year business floating at the back of someone's house on a boat from an idea or a mind. And that just goes to show all of you that are listening right now that the concept of money and the concept of all this stuff that we're talking about, it's all just an illusion. Like, in terms of the limits that you might experience in your life are all limits within your own mindset, within your own, what you can see. If you can see it, and you can vision it, and also create 100 times more value than what you're charging for to the person, but do it at the higher end of town in a lot of cases, that's the piece there that allows you to unlock the lock that you're trying to unlock, but also create a highly profitable business, first one, from services online, from a laptop, anywhere in the world, and then allow you the thought process and the thinking time, so that you can then go and create other streams of revenue that then ultimately free you. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. When you sort of reach these top clients, were you worried or scared that you might not be able to complete the job? Like, how did you learn how to sort of do content removal in such a short time? And what type of content was it that you were removing? Was it like news articles, bad YouTube videos, Trust pilot reviews?
It was all kinds of content. It was like YouTube videos, images, search results, articles, de-indexing stuff. It was all kinds. And you can get very motivated if you move 12 pieces of content that unlocks a contract worth 132 grand. You can get real motivated to do that. You can get really motivated. It's kind of exciting because you're like, fuck, if I don't do this, I don't have anything. It's like, but you unlock it, and you unlock a client and a top review that allows you to leverage more top clients. You got no risk. What's the risk? What was the risk to me? The risk was I was sat in my mate's backyard on his yacht. I sat there floating away. The risk to me was I lose 5 grand. I ring my family in England and I go, I've completely, absolutely annihilated myself here. I've gone completely broke again for the 3rd time. Just put my flight on the credit card. I'll come back. I'd already got a property sat in England that I bought when I was in this matrix system that we're all in, where we go to work and work 40-hour weeks. I'd already got that, and I got tenants in it and stuff like that. Like, I wasn't going there. To me, it was like, why? My whole mind is, why wouldn't I risk it? What? There is no point out there of not risking it. I don't know whether we get reincarnated or whether we come back or whether we live 16 lives. All I know is that I've got one life here and I've got to roll the dice. I've got to have a go. You've got to give this a really good nudge. And if you're living, I presume most of your audience is probably in Australia. If you're living in Australia, you're in the top 1% in the world, right? Just when you even open your eyes this morning, you were in the top 1% in the world, probably the top 0.1%. You've probably got more affluence, more opulence, and more opportunities than anyone else in the world. And you're also in a country that is highly entrepreneurial. You can be the girl that works at Mecca and or Sephora, the makeup place. And from your job in Sephora, you can learn that these girls like this kind of foundation. You can create an e-commerce brand just like that, out of your mind. You can do that. You can create that. That's your ability in Australia right now. Any single person that listens to this has that opportunity in Australia. It's the most abundant place in the world. It's just whether you choose to access that abundance or not. You can either look at the world as if it's not abundant, or you look at it as it is abundant. But the choice of how you look at it is yours. But that is definitely the opportunity that I see in Australia. And every time I walk out of the Gold Coast airport, that hits me every time. Every time I walk into Sydney, into Melbourne, even into Adelaide, you can get the same feeling in Townsville. You're living in the most abundant place in the planet. You just have to use it for the right reasons rather than to go and fund someone else's dream.
What I really loved about sort of the contract, you sort of gave value upfront, and if you were able to do the job, it would unlock this 100 grand contract.
Yeah.
Did you get them to sign a contract initially or would you just give them free value upfront, or did you get paid for sort of clearing those initial links?
So I liked, when you're talking about big contracts, the way you unlock big contracts is you say, we'll do this piece of value for you, massive value. You can have that on us, right? This piece of value unlocks this contract that's also massive value to your brand for X amount of time. That's also value stacked, right? So for the 132 grand's worth of work that I was charging, I knew that to the business was worth $10 million per year. So I was way undercharging on what that was worth to the brand, right? For how I'd be looking after them, way undercharging. But that's perfect because now I've got the perfect value stack. So it's an easy sell, right? So you deliver a piece of value over here that unlocks what you want over here, but there's also stacking the value towards what they want, right? Because it's not about you. It's about How can I give that person, how can I give that brand, that business value in the marketplace? Give them that. Do the free value if you know you can do it. Take that on the chin, because that unlocks this. When you unlock this and you've got this on the plate now, you've got this, when you use free value to unlock a contract like that, you put the free value on the front end, right? It unlocks the contract. You negotiate it, not only unlocking the contract, but you negotiate the review on the unlock of the contract too. So you get the review. So now you've got a player review with a player contract unlocked. You now leverage a player review to unlock more value in the marketplace from more people, from more A-grade players that know you, like you, trust you, roll with you, that review you. Bang, 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 it rolls on. You've now got $1 million business inside 6 to 12 months by doing what? By delivering $50 to $100 million worth of value in the marketplace and charging $1 million for it. And unlocking it, and you unlocked it all by delivering free value up front. Yeah. Don't ask for permission to deliver the free value. Just deliver the free value. Just put it there. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's how you unlock everything. It's still how I unlock everything now. It's like someone came to us the other day and was like, we want to remove these links. I said, cool. How many do you want to remove? 50 links. Okay, cool. But we're worried about if you can do it and this, that, and the other. I said, here's 5 removed. Now you don't have to worry if we can do it anymore. Do you want to do business with us? Because this company over here that's wanting to remove 50 links, and we've removed 5 for free, it's like, I could go back and forth with them all day long trying to justify how we can do the job, sending them reviews, rah, rah, rah. Or I could just remove content and prove the concept to them by removing the content that is causing them pain. Because don't you think if we remove content 5 for a company that's experiencing pain with 50 links, do you not think that they're gonna know, like, and trust you now and see the value in the marketplace? It unlocks the 45. I guarantee you, every day and twice on a Sunday it does. So that's where people are missing and leaving money on the table all the time, because they're always trying to charge for everything. But when you try and charge for everything, one, you charge way less than what you could get if you didn't do that at the start, because you underprice yourself massively. And 2, you create a void between you and the client, because you're thinking about what you want and not what the client wants. So you create a gap, and that gap has to be filled by something. And the gap's usually filled by the client not doing any business with you, right? And if you want to fill that gap with, or bring you closer to the client and bring you closer to the deal, just with an online business, with a low overheads, service-based online business, or any other business practically anyway, but let's just talk about low service-based online business, which is where most of you that want to free yourself from anything should start, rather than e-com, rather than drop shipping, rather than all the other bullshit that everyone tells you. You can just close that gap completely by delivering something that costs you a marginal amount. And with a service-based business online, which is what I encourage everyone to start before they do anything else in business, you learn to market, you learn to sell, you learn how to communicate value from day one. You can get others to provide the service. I mean, in my business, because of the complexity of it and because of the difficulty and the nature of it, I didn't start like that. I had to get in the weeds and do like that and figure it all out. And that's not the business to start. That's not the ideal thing. But if I was going to start a business tomorrow, I would go into selling something like, I would honestly start a short form content company. In fact, we are starting that, but I would literally do short form content for brands. I would sign one market name, key sign in. I would do X amount of free content to unlock more free content. And then I would use the review from that to unlock more, and I'd outsource all the work to my video guys from day one and unlock all the value. I reckon you could go from $0 to hundreds of thousands per month with 10, 15 clients in at the top end of town inside maybe 2 months, because you've just thought of it and opened it up completely differently to how everyone else opens it up. Because everyone else opens it up by saying, hey, I get the DMs all the time. Hey, can I send you a free video? Can you jump on a Zoom call for 10 minutes? 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I've worked for Iman Gadzhi. I've worked for whoever. No one gives a fuck. No one gives a fuck. Just send them, the top level clients, just send them 10 unbelievable fucking videos, right? And just say, I hope you like these. Once you've obviously got into a conversation with them, just send them 10 unbelievable videos, and they're gonna and just say, look, if you think the videos are good, and then it unlocks this. Use that to unlock this, but don't keep trying to be in the sword fight position where everyone else is, where everyone's doing the same monotonous script on Instagram DMs. It's just not a place where you're going to win.
A lot of our audience are people sort of that are in the agency space, in the consulting space. What would you advise people, like how could people apply that same method when it comes to saying doing social media marketing, or when it comes to doing e-commerce consulting? How could someone give sort of upfront value? Because it's pretty hard to get like a client their first sale for free, because that might take a lot of work.
So do these people have clients or no clients? Because there's two separate things. Because if you have clients, the first thing I do is I look at all my clients and I go, right, who's the best client, the best payer for the least amount of time and gets the most amount of value out of me? I've identified that client. So they're great to work with. They're great payers. They appreciate what we do. They get great value. We get great revenue. Right. I sack all the rest of the clients and I go and get 10 more like that. Because most businesses, they say, let's take short form video. They're doing dentist short form video. They're doing plumbers. They're doing social media influencers. They're doing e-commerce. They're doing everyone's different short form videos. They're taking short form videos for everywhere. They look at it and they go, this user-generated content short form video that we're making for this e-com brand over here generates them a vast amount of revenue. So they pay vast amounts of money for it. These TikToks, these shorts, these reels that are user-generated content that could generate sales. Okay, so what have we got the opportunity for? If I charge that dentist for that video, I'd get $50 for the short, right? But if I say to this e-commerce, I can position it with this e-commerce brand in two ways. I can either charge them more for the video, maybe $100 for the video up front, or if I was clever, I would say percentage of revenue generated, profit revenue generated from video. That's what I would say, wouldn't I? So now what have I got? I generate quality content over here, and I get percentage of revenue generated, profitable revenue generated from that short on TikTok. So if that goes viral, does 3 million views, which a lot of them do. If you're a good short form person, user generated content, when you get the viral product, and if that does 3 million, and you got a 1-3% for conversion rate on that potential, right? 0.5%. Just do the maths on that. You're going to earn tens of thousands for a video that you would have sold for $50 to a dentist, right? And that is how you have to think about everything. It's look at if you've got the existing business, look at all your clients, every single one of them. Pick the best one. Pick the one that generates you the most revenue for the least amount of time, that you enjoy working with, and all these factors. Factor in all that. Look to create 9 more of those unicorn clients in your business and sack the rest of them. Get rid of all the Marys that ring you up complaining, wanting to do edits, all this stuff. If you're doing content, get rid of all them. Fuck them all right off. Then you've got this ideal business. If you're starting from scratch, rather than having to do all that, you have the ability now, because you're new, to think about that from day one. So you have the ability to listen to what if you want to listen to what I'm saying, or you can ignore me if you like, but you have the ability to write down exactly what you want in a client right now, what would suit you, what generates the most revenue, how you can create value from day one. Then you can pay someone on Fiverr or Upwork or anything to go and make a list of those clients and get you their emails, phone numbers, Instagram handles, and then you can DM them, but don't DM them a text message on Instagram. Send them a voice note. One, it allows them to connect with you as a human, and two, a voice note with a blue box stands out in the DM, right? So you send them a voice note on Instagram. You send them an email with a Loom video, right? Or something like that. It's interactive, to show your face, explain what you're doing, give value before you say anything, right? All this stuff, create value in what you're doing. Go after a highly targeted audience. Remember, if you can make a list of 100 potential clients in the niche that you want to target, and you can sign them for like 2.5, 3 grand per month clients to 10 grand per month. You do not need many clients, 2, 3 clients, to free you from your job, from what you're doing right now. And you're not telling me that out of 100 people at the personalized level that I'm talking about, the customized voice notes, the customized Loom video, the customized emails, the phone calls, whatever you got to do to 100 people, you're not telling me that you can't sign 3 if you're really ultra specific in what I'm going to do, how I'm going to give you value, and how we're going to charge for it. If you're specific on that, and you're laser focused on that, you can get that all day long, every day on a Sunday.
That is beautiful. Another thing that like a lot of our audience struggle with is like in the agency and consulting model, people there's like a 3-month churn rate, 2-month churn rate, people default on payment plans. How do you guys get people to stick to that 12-month contract and not say, hey, after 3 months you removed majority of the bad links, we're good, thank you for your help?
There's 2 ways you can do it. You can either give the free value on the front end, which is a high amount of free value on the front end that can unlock a year's payment up front.
Oh.
Right? Yeah, but you could really stack the value at the front end that can unlock the year's payment up front. But with a lot of these clients that we're talking about, you lock them into an ironclad contract on the 12 months. So they're in for 12 months. Right? Has to be an ironclad contract, consulting agreement that locks them in for the 12 months if you're going to give it up front. So you shouldn't really have unless the business falls over and this, that, and the other. And the clients that I go after and that I work with don't default on payments, because we're talking about women that are worth $60 million a year in value, 10, 20, $30 million, $300 million businesses. We're talking high end. Or I don't fuck with all this low end energy stuff, because when you go into low end ponds and red seas like we're talking about with these low end energy clients, where you're working with dentists, doctors, people that essentially have jobs, or a practice that has become a job, or this kind of stuff in marketing. When you operate in this, you're operating in a low energy, low affluent space where if you're working with someone who's an entrepreneur whose only dream is to have 3 rental properties and a business that's doing $1 million a year, you're in the wrong pond anyway. You shouldn't be there, because that's not going to take you. How can you expect that to take you to the level where you have 10, 20, 30 million spare capital, and you can move this, and you're buying commercial properties, and you're doing all the affluent things that you probably want to do in your mind? How can you get there if you're not serving people that are already doing that?
Interesting. And Frankie, how have you been able to get your foot in the door, get a reply from the decision makers in these companies and people that are worth $60 million?
Relentless pursuit of what I know that I want through different channels. So you email them, you contact them on LinkedIn, you contact them on Twitter, you message them, on every platform, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, email. You message them. And I don't message the marketing manager. I don't message the head of PR and all this other crap. I go to the decision maker, the people that own the businesses, the people that are affected, the people that have feeling. When you're talking about what I'm talking about, you're talking about a business that creates feeling. So if you're being targeted online, you feel that. I want to talk to the person that feels the pain, because the marketing manager and the PR person does not feel the pain. When I've signed some female clients by talking to their boyfriend or the person and saying, how does it feel? It can't feel nice by seeing your girlfriend being targeted online. How does that make you feel? When you ask someone how that makes them feel, they feel it. When they feel it, they have to act on the feeling. They have to. It's impossible as a man. If someone was attacking my mom or my sister or something like that, I have a feeling towards that. I have to defend that. That's my honor. I have to do something about that, right? Because I'm a man. So you when you read books like Persuasion and other books about psychology and stuff like this, as you start your reading journey, you'll start to understand the psychology of a human being. The psychology of a human being will allow you to unlock deals. You just got to know how to read people and how to position things to do it. So if you can't get in contact with the woman that you want to get in contact with her mum, get in contact with the boyfriend. However you got to do it, I don't care, but just make sure that you can make that emotional connection. In my industry, you make the emotional connection, and that's it. And you've got the client. But after a while, after you've built up a book of clients start coming to you, and it becomes an attraction business now. So I've got an attraction business because I've been in the game for years. I've got the runs on the board. I've looked after people like Alex Hormozy and top celebrities in the US and stuff like that. So I've looked after the top tier clients. So I've now got an attraction model which says, well, Frankie's team are the best at doing this in the world because he's looked after all these people. But if you don't have that yet, then you've got to hustle and get into these places however you've got to get in. And the way to get in the service-based industry is the way that not everyone else is doing. Do you think that everyone's going to contact the partner of the person online? They're not going to do it. No business is going to do that. But when you're starting, it's that tenacity, it's that devil within you that goes, well, I've got to think of a different way because I haven't got the marketing budget to be able to go and put Google ads up there for 3 years and run them at a loss to be able to get one client. Then you have to do it. And you can, there's so many ways. Remember, guys, you're only ever 1% or 1 degree away from being able to contact anybody in the world, right? I've had a guy on the podcast called Zuby, right? Zuby's a famous guy. He's been on my podcast. We did a podcast in Melbourne. While he's in Melbourne, we went out for chicken. We became mates. Zuby got followed the other day by Elon Musk on Twitter. But I'm friends with Zuby. So if I'm friends with Zuby and Zuby's been on my podcast, I'm now 1 degree away from Elon Musk, right? My friend Chris Williamson has a podcast. He's doing really well. He's been on Joe Rogan. So guess what? I'm 1 degree away from Joe Rogan then, aren't I? I'm just sitting there. So it's not, you don't have to move things much or move your direction much. Maybe just 1% daily. And you can move your whole life and change your whole trajectory by who you know and how you move and how you think. But if you continue to think and work in the patterns and the narratives that the world is trying to teach you right now, go to school, get a job, this, that, and the other, it keeps you in a low vibrational state. And when you're in a low vibrational state, you cannot actively think and encourage yourself to move through and move through that trajectory. And the trajectory that you all want to go in. You would not be at this point in this podcast if you didn't want more for yourself. Well, if you want more for yourself, you can get more, but you just have to start creatively thinking. So rather than asking other people for advice all the time, start to think, how would I do that? How would I get a pen and paper out, get a journal out? How would I do that? Just what am I this? Because I guarantee you don't need my advice. You don't need anyone else's advice. You just need to listen to your own internal wisdom. But there should be enough within this podcast to get you thinking creatively, to allow you access to that internal wisdom. Because every single one of you that you don't need me to tell you this. I'm trying to wake you up. I'm trying to get you. I'm right, slap me around the face. You'll wake up, right? Now you're awake. Cool. You're awake. You've woken up. Frankie Lee, the bald fella on the fucking Zoom podcast, has smashed me in the face with some truth. Cool. Wicked. Now you have the opportunity to think, to think for yourself, to actually think, okay, how do I create more value in my market? How do I position myself with high value clients? How do I look at the clients that I've already got and assess where my biggest value is to the client, and how can I do the least amount of work for the most amount of money for the most amount of people? Do you know what I'm saying? Start to ask yourself more intelligent questions, and when you start to ask yourself, the path starts to become clear, and all of you have the power to do it.
That's such a beautiful answer. So Frankie, so you were doing the content removal from September 2017 from Australia. How long were you doing that? When did you go back to the UK?
I'm still doing the content removal now. Still got contentremoval.com. We still do the business now. It's run as I run it lean, as a lean business. It's a lean business that looks after high-end people, and people that we don't look after price shoppers and comparison people and all this kind of stuff. We look after high value people, brands, celebrities, this, that, and the other. It's a lean team, cash flow business, and the cash flow from that business funds what I actually want to do in life, which is actually impact people, help people break patterns, flip perspectives in their life so they can move forward and move through them, which is why I'm so passionate about people creating that cash cow, that cash business, so that they free themselves from this this low energy environment that they're in, so they can move through into doing something that they're actually truly passionate about. But don't get it twisted. What I've learned in life is I've resented at many points my business that made me all of my money. I've resented it because it's boring, because people want to make money out of podcasting. People want to make money out of being a YouTuber, an influencer, and all this other bullshit, right? People want to make money out of all the glossy stuff they see online, out of having a course for $997 and all this kind of stuff. People want to make money out of that because they see other people doing that. E-commerce, all the glossy stuff, everyone wants to make money. Find something really boring that other people don't want to do or can't do, and go into that and just keep doing it. And when you find something that makes you money, rather than looking for another thing that makes you money, just keep repeating the thing that's making you money. This is where I fucked up, because at one point, and we're on the road to recovery now, so it's all good. But at one point, I took my eye off the ball with content removal, went all in on the podcast, forgot about the thing that earns me the money, forgot about all this other stuff, and started to let all this fall down over here, because you don't let go of the thing that made you. You just keep it going, and you systemize it, and you keep it, and you keep treating it nicely, and it keeps feeding you money, right? You nurture it. You don't resent the thing that you built just because it's boring. But a lot of us as entrepreneurial people will do something that's boring, that generates cash, and we'll start to resent it as if it's taken us away from what we should be doing. So that was the key thing that I learned. Going into the podcast, what I learned was money is great. Money is a tool that to be used to empower you. Anyone that says money doesn't bring you happiness and all this crap is talking absolute bollocks, because money is a tool that will enhance who you are as a human being. So if you're a giving human being, and I like helping people and helping my family and being able to, if my mum needs an operation or anything like that, or my mum needs medical care, or my sister needs something, or my niece, my nephew, I want to pay for that. Right? I don't want money to drive around in a Ferrari or buy a dumb car or some worthless value stuff. I don't want it for that. I want it for being able to provide value in my podcast, to create content online, to travel to create the content, and to help people that need help, right? So money just essentially accentuates you. So don't believe in this narrative first off about money doesn't bring you happiness, because that's a when you start saying that to yourself, or any negative concept like money doesn't grow on trees and all this kind of stuff, you're actually subconsciously implanting limiting beliefs in your mind that stop you from what you truly want, which is always going to be more money. Because if you can get more money, you can get more resources, and more resources leads to a more abundant life for you, your family, and for everyone around you. You can help more people. You cannot help more people without more resources. So it's your job to get as much resources, and there is infinite amount of resources in terms of money in this world. It's your job to get as many of those fun tokens in your pocket so that you can help other people in life. I can only help the amount of people with the amount of money that I have, right? So your job is to serve the world a vast amount of value, take back the 1% to 3%, 4% of that, 10% if you can, of the value created, and use that money to help yourself and others on a journey to enjoy life. That's what money is for, right? So when I discovered, okay, I've got that, but I'm just making money now. I'm not doing anything. I'm just making money. I'm making money, and I'm investing in Bitcoin or whatever I'm investing in, and I'm just making money, right? Well, that's a very soulless existence with content removal if I was just doing that. So I wanted to give back, and I think I knew I always had a voice, and I wasn't using it, and it started to really aggravate me. It started to piss me off, and that's when I decided. I came back to England once when I was about 3 years into content removal at the time, and I came back to England, 2019, just September, and I'd had an argument with my mum, and I was acting. I'd said things that, one, you should never say to a woman that you respect. Any woman, you should never speak out of turn to your mum. That's for sure. And I realized why was I so unhappy in life? And I was unhappy because I'd created the opportunity to do something by creating money in my life and by creating a flow of capital, but I wasn't doing anything with the time it created other than going to the gym and doing a bit of boxing and keeping fit and walking down the beach and this and the other. That's adding value to me, and that's good to a certain point. But humans aren't designed to just self. They're not designed for that. You're designed to help other people, right? Yeah. When you reach out to me and say, "Hey, Frankie, do you have time for a podcast?" It's like, yeah, of course. Like, if I can help you, if I can add some value to your audience, well, why not? Why wouldn't I do that? Of course, I could. There's so many people out there that don't do that, that don't think like that. It's just crazy to me. So when I was in England, and I just had this argument with her over nothing, essentially, that I said the dumbest shit you can imagine, as us men say when we're in a ranting mood. And I went down and sat in a spare room, and I thought, why am I so deeply unhappy? And I was deeply unhappy because of this. I wasn't giving the value to the world that I wanted to give, or at least making an effort to do that. And then I thought, well, what is it you've always wanted to do? Well, I've always wanted to communicate. I've always thought I need a platform to do that. And I remember, even though I don't agree with everything they say all the time, I remember like the Gary V's and the Russell Brunsons and the Tony Robbins of being like, and they're a bit woo-woo and out there for me. But I remember them saying that you got to pick your medium of how you can create content to be able to do it. And I just thought podcast long form was the best way. Me having conversations with other people would be the best way for me to be able to create the video, the audio, and the long form content that could actually move and change people's life and take people forward. And I just sat there on that bedroom floor after I'd about 2 hours later, I was with a MacBook and not even a mic, just a pair of headphones, and I just recorded the first piece of audio, and I called it my 2020 vision. About how I wanted to. It's still on there now. If you want to listen on the Frankie Lee podcast, it's still out there now, and you can hear what my vision was and how I wanted to change what I was doing, and kind of it's 10 minutes long. And then from that, I recorded a couple more episodes, and then I stopped because I was going down this path. I did. I think it was on a two or maybe a third episode. I think the third episode was a guest. So I did 2 episodes, and then I stopped. And I stopped for 6 months. And the reason I stopped was because I wasn't sure after that second episode whether I was doing it for the right reasons. Right? I thought I was going down the path of where this reason was to serve just me. So I stopped because I didn't want to do something else that was just solely serving me. Didn't want to do that. And for 6 months went by, and then I became deeply unhappy again because I wasn't serving the world. I was just out there just trying to generate capital online from a laptop. Had time off. I'm at the beach, all this bullshit. And I went to a clairvoyant, and she said to me, it was random as hell. And I went to a clairvoyant, and she said to me, she told me things about myself that no one could know without me even saying anything. I just walked in the room. She told me these wild things. And after about an hour, she said to me, I was telling her about, I was pissed off because I didn't feel like I was living my true, authentic life. And she said to me, I'm seeing LA. You're going to meet someone from LA, and they're going to help you find your voice. I hadn't even told her I was doing podcasting or anything. I hadn't told her anything about that, or that I'd even shelved the idea. And a week later, I was walking down the beach at Mermaid Beach, and I bumped into Tom Hanks. And we went on a 20-minute walk. And on that 20-minute walk, I was speaking to Tom Hanks. And we were talking, and it was just very much like ping pong, back and forth. It was like we were mates. And he said to me, what is it? He said to me, what is it you want to do? And I said, well, I don't know. Like, I've always wanted to do this podcast. He says, well, what's stopping you doing this podcast then? He's like, oh, there's nothing. He says, exactly. He says, well, you're here doing this. I mean, like, there's nothing stopping you. Why don't you just take action? It's going to work out. Like, it's going to go. It's going to do this. So I went back, and I went into my PT, and I said to him, bro, I just met Tom Hanks on the beach. He won't believe it. But Tom Hanks took a selfie of us, and it went online. It went viral. And it went viral for all the wrong reasons, because it was at the start of COVID, and it went fucking viral for all the wrong reasons. But it was that moment that got me back into flow with this podcast. And I got I started, and I thought, well, I want to do a podcast with guests, not just because it was a podcast with me on my own. I thought I need a podcast with guests because I need it not to be about me. I need it to be about how I can extract the value out of other people and ping pong with other people, throw a few of my experiences in there. I'll call it the Frankie Lee Podcast, so it still builds my presence and still elevates what I want to elevate, but also I will make it serve others by having other guests and this, that, and the other. And my first guest was my PT George from that conversation. And then I just went one after the other, and I've never missed a week since. And we're 130 odd episodes in now. I've just done one with Matt Does Fitness, and I've had Ellie Gonzalez, and I've had Davey Fogarty from the Hoodie, and I've had Mitchell Orville, and I've had no end of the founder of Reebok, founders of Gymshark. I've had founders of Grenade. I've had all these different Ryan Terry, all these different fabulous guests, male and female, that have added value through the conversations that we've had, which is similar to what you do. And that's kind of how I really found the podcast and why I really went into that, because it's just something that lit me up. Just and it's still like even today. Even just doing this podcast with you, it's like this is when I'm truly alive. You know, when I'm alive when I can add something to the world for the moment that I'm in, and I'm fully present. That's when I'm most alive, you know. And it's always within these conversations where I'm trying to make someone else that I don't even know, who, it might be Steve, might be Jenny, you might be on the way to work in Brisbane this morning, you might be fucking in Sydney, just about to go to a party or whatever. You might, I don't know who you are, where you are, but I'm hoping that my words hit you at the right time and get you to see the value in yourself and your true worth and what you truly want. And that is all I want. It's not this conversation, even though it might be a bit about my story and you might be asking me questions about me. This isn't about me. This is about me hoping that you get the most out of yourself. And that is what it's all about to me.
That's beautiful. Quick side question. Have you been able to keep in contact with Tom Hanks ever since then? Or did you just have that selfie and that was it?
No, I've never seen him again since. I know our paths will cross. It's already written. It's already written that we'll do a podcast in the future. It's already written. It's in the ether. When you start to vision and start to see things for yourself in the future, the only thing you cannot control in your life is the timeline it happens in. Right? You can't. If my dream is to have 10 commercial properties, I can have 10. I could have 11. I could have 12. But I cannot fully control the timeline they arrive in. But I can control the vision and I can control my action towards the vision. Right? So I can control the actions I take daily towards my ultimate vision, my ultimate North Star, and I can control the vision itself. What I cannot control is the time frame it happens in, invariably. And that's where people get twisted. They think, because like the other day, it's like, I thought to myself, what? My podcast is in the top 1% in the world, but I think I've still done nothing, right? But when you actually think about it, I've done all right. I'm doing all right. But in my mind, I'm like, but I'm not in 1 million earlobes every week. Yeah, you're not, but you're affecting tens of thousands of people that you don't even see. And you will get to millions, but you cannot control the timeline that happens in or how fast that happens in. That happens at 1% daily, right? And on the 399th episode, Kylie Jenner might listen to it and she shares it on social media and all of a sudden, bang, there I am in one day, right? I can't control that. I can't control what happens. All I can control is the action that I take and the vision I hold. So I would encourage you to get clear on your vision today of who you want to be. And when you get clear on your vision of who you want to be and when you get clear on the vision of who you want to be, you want to write down how that person acts, how he moves, how they feel, how she feels, who are they surrounded by, where are they in the world, what are their mannerisms, what are they doing, what don't they do, who don't they act like, who don't they hang around. When you get clear on that, you can start to really build a picture of how you move and how you got to move towards your North Star. Because everyone's out there trying to tell you what your dream is, and no one can. I can't tell you. You can't tell them. Like, they can only figure that out themselves. Well, only way you figure it is by getting quieter and quieter and quieter with yourself. I do meditation. I do breath work. I do all the spiritual woo-woo stuff that you wouldn't imagine a bald man from England does, right? But I do it because the closer and the quieter you get with yourself, the more you can understand exactly what you want. Because there are many times in my life when I've thought I've wanted this, and really that was just to prove someone over here something. That was not even a truth of me. That was not a truth. That's a falsity. The problem with a lot of men and women these days is because we've got Instagram and because we're looking at other people's lives and what they have, and they're constantly being fed into our cognitive thought process. We build our vision predicated on externally what someone else has got, and we think we want it, but we don't want it. That's not us. We don't want what they've got, but we build it. It's why if you look at a girl that does OnlyFans, she'll be surrounded by lots of other girls that do OnlyFans. And if you look at a guy that does e-commerce, he'll be surrounded by a lot of guys that do e-commerce. And if you look at a guy that does anything else, football, he's surrounded by a lot of people that do football, right? Your environment and what you're looking at dictates where you're going. So if you agree with me and that is true and you agree, then wouldn't you curate the things that you look at the most, i.e., the social medias that the platforms that you're on? You must curate them to take you towards what you actually want. So you have to be clear on what you want. Otherwise, you'll get fed what you don't want. And you'll wonder why you're left hot, why you're left in 3 years' time with something you don't want. Or why did I get to this goal and I feel empty? You feel empty because it's not truly what you want, because you never got present with yourself and actually assessed, what do I want? Me, Steve, me, Jenny, me, fucking Craig. What do I want? Not Frankie, not Andy. I couldn't give a fuck about them. What do I want in this moment? How do I want to live my life? How do I want to turn up? When you start getting really dialed in and clear on that, opens up different neurological pathways, different thought processes, different friend groups. You know, it changes the game. Because I guarantee you, if you're a woman and you've got 5 girl mates that do OnlyFans and you hang around with them every week and you don't do OnlyFans, I guarantee you in a year's time you'll have an OnlyFans account. How did that happen then? You never wanted to do OnlyFans. Well, that happened by law of association. Everything happens by law of association. You are exactly who you associate with. You're exactly who you are around all the time. So if you're around people stuck in a 40-hour work week vision, and you don't want that for yourself, you've got to be putting in podcasts like this in your ear. You've got to put podcasts like my podcast in your ear. You got to put things in your ear. If you can't actually physically get out of the environment at this moment, you've got to put things in there that whilst you're in that environment to take you out of that environment. And that's what you've got to do to move yourself through the gears, because otherwise you're constantly being taken. Do not let the world dictate to you what you want. Do not question every fucking narrative the world tries to teach you about money, about life, about relationships, right? And question it all. Question every narrative. Is that the truth? Why is it? Why am I being told that? If I'm being told that, what does that take me away from here? Yeah. If I act like this, what does that mean here? Right. Understand the polarity. If this happens over here, this has to happen over here. If positive happens, something negative has to happen. There has to be polarity in the world. Yeah. Has to be. This dictates this result. Once you know what actions dictate the results that you actually want, you can start doing the actions that dictate the results that you want. Sounds so simple and so stupid, but so many people don't think about it. Yeah. A lot of you are doing actions in your daily life that do not take you to the narrative or the life that you want to lead. So why would you take the actions that you're taking then? Why would you do the bag of cocaine at the weekend? Right? That's not going to take you to where you want to go. Why are you doing the alcohol? You know, you might be a man that puts out wholesome content over here, but does a bag of cocaine down Burley Pavilion in the Gold Coast at the weekend. If you're that person, you're not congruent with who you actually are, and that will cause you more depression than anything else. It's the non-congruency of the human being that causes the human being the pain, because the human being knows over here that this is what they truly want and what they truly desire and everything they truly are, but they're acting in this way to fit the narrative that they think they have to be, and that causes massive mental capacity pain, right? And it discombobulates you, and then you end up doing something you don't want to do, or you end up in a place you don't want to be, and you think, how did I get here? You got there at 1% daily, the same way that I'm going to get to top education podcast in the world eventually by 1% daily, the same way that you're going to get to where you want at 1% daily, the same way that Stephanie is going to get to, she might just aspire to be to buy her house in Brisbane and have 3 children with a beautiful man. And if she gets there at 1% daily and finds that life, I'm happy for her because she got what she wanted, right? I'm not here to tell you what life you want. I'm here to tell you that whatever life that you want and whatever business you want and whatever monetary amount that you want can be got. But it's achieved at 1% daily, and there has to be, you have to actually truly understands you and what you want, so that you can go and take the actions required to achieve what you truly want. And don't let anyone else's reality and anyone else's Instagram life or external life dictate what you truly want for yourself.
That is beautiful, Frankie. How do you go about, like, what's the process of finding what you truly want and not sort of doing something where you're sort of thinking what other people want and sort of subconsciously sort of now wanting the things that other people want for you?
Okay. Curate your Instagram feed and your social feeds to only really truly show people that inspire you, people that align with your true vision. But how you find your true vision, the first thing I want you to do is get a journal in front of you right now, wherever you are, or at some point after this podcast. Get a journal in front of you. Write down every human being that you've interacted with in the last 7 days. Every conversation you have never leaves you the same. It either leaves you feeling more positive or negative, right? Never leaves you in the same place. This conversation that we have is either going to leave you feeling more positive or more negative about me, about your situation. It has to be. Polarity has to be. Negative or positive. You cannot leave this conversation with me the same, right? You have to leave more positive or more negative. Simple as that. Well, if that's true, then that means every person in your life that you've had an interaction with this week has either left you feeling more positive or more negative. So if you list all them names down on that sheet and you write positive next to all the ones that have left you feeling more abundant, more positive, more lifted, more light, and you write negative down to the ones that left you feeling more, oh, fucking hell, life's hard, fucking hell, need a job, Steve's moaning about this. Anyone who's left you feeling like that on another side of the piece of paper, right? Now you know the simple way to find out who you are is to create more positivity in your life. Well, if that's the case, then increase your time with the people that left you feeling more positive and decrease your time drastically with the people that left you feeling negative. Cut some of them out. If they're mums, dads, family, just reduce time with them. Yeah. Control time. Rather than spending 8 hours a week with your mum, spend 2 hours a week with her. Right. Yeah. Structure it so that it's positive. Curate the space before you go there. Create the interaction in a space that brings out more positivity. But at least now you know on a sheet of paper, these are the interactions I'm having week in, week out with the humans I'm having at this moment. This is my sphere of influence. And my sphere of influence is making me feel more negative than it is positive. So I need to adjust the balance. Because when you feel more positive and more elated now, week 2, week 3, now you have the mental capacity, because you're feeling more positive, to think clearer. When you have the mental capacity to think clearer, what can you do now? Now you can find out who you are, can't you? Because you're feeling more positive. You can actually find out who you truly are, because you just raised your elevation. You've raised your energy levels. You've gone from here, baseline, to here, to here, to here. Now you can go, wow, fuck, I don't even want to be a doctor. I don't even want to be a nurse. I was just doing that to please my mum. I was living someone else's dream because I didn't want to let them down. But you're letting yourself down because you're living someone else's narrative. It's not your narrative. Okay, what do I want to do? Well, I want to try being a yoga teacher. I want to try being whatever you want to be. I don't know the answer. I can't answer the question, but I can just tell you how to raise your consciousness to the level where you can make the decision yourself. And you make better decisions when you're feeling more positive, more elated, more abundant, more everything else. Well, the way to curate that in the fastest way is to find out who's offering the negative charges, who's offering the positive charges, and switch up the positive and turn down the negative. And it's the most simplest exercise you'll ever do in your life, and it'll change it in a moment. One thing free you in one moment. As soon as that last name hits the paper, you've put positive and negative down next to the name. You divide them into 2 columns, you've got them on 2 sheets. You've got the game plan. Your game plan is get more positive for the next 2 weeks. Because when you get more positive, you get more clarity. And when you got that more clarity, you make more money. You'll have more money. You'll have a better health. You'll have better sex. You'll have better everything because your mind's free. you are at peace, right? And also remember this when it comes to the sex part. If you're plugged in on a sexual level, sexual conscious level, with a negative influence in your life on a daily basis or weekly basis or hookup basis or whatever, or lots of negative charges, people that leave you feeling disempowered, how do you think that affects you?
Worse.
Even worse. It multiplies it 10 times, because that's a whole different level of consciousness that you connect on, right? Sounds woo-woo, but it's the truth. It's everything. It's you've got to get real clear on who leaves you feeling better than when you left. And you've got to work, if you want to attract more abundance into your life, make sure that you are a person that leaves people feeling more positive for their interactions with you, right? It's your duty to leave me feeling this conversation. When I leave this conversation, to leave me feeling more joy. It's my duty to leave you feeling the same, right? That's our duties as humans. Those two, when you do those things and you implement them in your life, that'll change your business. That'll change your fitness. It'll change every part of your life. And that is best I can give you.
One thing that you said earlier that really resonated with me, Frankie, was the importance of not putting your foot off the accelerator when you have something that's working. Like 3-4 years ago, I came back from San Francisco, had nothing. I rebuilt up my business. I was super disciplined, waking up super early every single day, meditating every single day, started to get traction. I think I was then like, maybe I did that for 2 years. I had like nearly 1,000 videos on e-commerce was doing well, consulting was doing well, selling courses. I had hot inbound leads, I had sales members, and everything was good. And then I got to a point where I was like, man, like I'm not happy. Like this doesn't drive me. I'm bored of making e-commerce videos. I'm bored of sort of, consulting and building more drop shipping stores. And then I sort of went on this 2-year run of trying to find happiness, trying a bunch of different things, doing podcasting, doing YouTube videos on personal development and documenting my journey, stopped doing content on sort of e-commerce, and my cash flow just dwindled. It went down. And then starting the beginning of this year, after going through that whole journey and just talking to a lot of mentors, I think it's exactly what you said. It was like a similar journey path where I was like, damn, like I have to go back to what made me money, what worked. I was stupid to like put my foot off the accelerator. I started really building that up. But now with the goal of getting the cash flow from that to fund my real passions, and that changed the whole game.
This is you've just spoken about my whole journey in a literal paragraph, because I've experienced exactly what you're feeling. And exactly what you're going through. I'm going through the reconstruction period in my life with content removal now. Do you know what I'm saying? Like I'm having to rebuild, because you said where you want to find happiness. Happiness comes in progression, right? You can progress your personal development and this and podcasts and all that stuff way faster when you've got cash flow, right? And that's the kicker. The kicker is, don't kill your cash cow because of your ego wanting to find this woo-woo happiness. Happiness is simply this: progression. Have I moved forward today? Have I moved forward this week, this month? Am I creating value in my business? Yes. Is it exactly what I want to do? Probably not. But your money, your initial money, the moolah, the je ne sais quoi, that's not going to come from you creating content on personal development, you creating the podcast, you creating the fucking rainbow fucking course on how to fucking do this and that. It's not going to come from that. It comes from you selling e-commerce stuff, because that makes people money. So people are going to pay you money. Me selling content removal because it protects people's reputations online that are worth valuable, massive amounts of money. Yeah. I can't help that I'm fucking good at removing online content, and that I can't help that. And you can't help that you're great at creating brands that make money online, right? So why are we resenting ourselves for what we're great at in the pursuit of this personal development stuff? Personal development is just progression. You want to progress every day, which allows you to fund your passion. Fund your passion with your cash cow business. Get your cash cow up and running. And when you start to lose interest in your cash cow, double down on it. Go harder on it. Systemize it more. Appreciate it more. Be grateful more. Don't resent what's put you where you are. Like I did. Like you did. That's what's going to fuck you, right? That's what put you on your ass, essentially put me on my ass. That is like being in the 6th round when you've jabbed and moved the whole time and made money and all this, that, and the other, and you jabbed and moved, and then all of a sudden you take your eye off the ball, get knocked out in the 8th round, or put on your ass, put down. You have to, and you spend the 9th round dancing around thinking, oh, I want to do personal development. Oh, I want to do fucking YouTube videos. Oh, I want to do this. Any form of online content that you create, you've got to be willing to not make fucking any money from it for 5 years. Not one dime. Well, you'll make a few dollars here and there, but just you have to be willing to not make any money for 5 years, and you have to be willing to go 10 years to see fundamental success. I've been going 3.5. You've probably been doing something similar. That's what you have to be willing to do. Content, putting out content and growing your personal brand will help your cash cow grow as well. Don't forget, if you stick to what you're fucking meant to be doing, right? But this, if you take your eye off the ball, if you chase this woo-woo stuff that the Gary V's and all this kind of stuff are telling you. Gary V made money selling fucking services to high-priced companies online, and he's never stopped doing it. He's never generated the same amount of money out of his book. He's never generated it out of a fucking course. Yes, from the content he's created from doing all this stuff over the period, he's now created VFriends, which has created him 90 million. But even the 90 million does not compare to the businesses he's created. Does not compare to the businesses and the value he's created. And most of all of his best chunks of money have come from fucking business, from doing business at high level with high level brands, not from personal development, not from the content that he's telling you, chase your passion, do this, do that. You're being steered down the wrong track. It's not the truth. He's going to be worth $1 billion by doing business, not by fucking putting his face online, telling you to chase your passion and make 100K, 200K. That's bullshit. This is very American. It's very Americanism. It's very like, that's how the whole world's going. It's not what the Chinese are doing. It's not what they're doing over in other parts of the world. They create businesses. They create businesses that add value massively to the marketplace and add value. And that's exactly what Gary's done. But people see the front end of funnel content, which is great for building his personal brand and getting him on, that attracts him more business. But the problem is that people are getting in the pursuit of this, just pursuing happiness as a metric. And happiness is only quantified by a move forward. Have I moved forward today? You're not going to move forward every day. It's not going to be brilliant every day. It's not going to be sunshine and fucking rainbows. I've had things go wrong today, but I'm moving forward. That's it. Do business. You do business. Don't murder your business trying to chase. Because I bet if I asked you this question, I bet if I said to you, why did you decide to go away from e-com into this personal development space? I'm sure you would probably say something along the lines of you looked at Instagram too much and looked at like the Gary V's and all this stuff. Is that true?
Yeah, I think I was watching too much Gary V. Everyone's talking about, hey, like, life is short. You should be happy every day. You should be doing what you love. That feeling of like, that down feeling I was now feeling because I was financially free gave me the ability to just start feeling more. And then all of a sudden I was like, damn, I'm feeling quite down because I have all this time. Everything's automated. And it just put me down the wrong path.
But you were looking for this so-called unhappiness or so-called happiness because someone else was telling you that something was wrong with you because potentially because you were progressing, right? Gary Vee couldn't look into your life. His content has no context on how you're living. Right? If you had actually looked at your life back then, and I'd looked at my life, I'd gone, fucking hell, you generating that much from that much effort now because of that much things. Wow, congratulations! Like fucking me. Now I've got more time to discover more about who I am, so that I can go and add more value to the world. Wicked. I've moved forward. I'm happy because I've moved forward. That allows me to move even more forward. Yeah. But because we had the external influences of the social medias and this, that, and the other, and everyone else that's out there in the marketplace right now telling you that you need to be happy. Yes, happiness is a metric, but happiness is progression. Are you progressing? Progression could be you had $5 yesterday, you've now got $35. It could be you weighed 12 stone and now you weigh 11 and a half stone, or 11 stone 9 pounds. Progression. 2 or 3 pounds. Progression. You can see progression when you look for progression. Progression means happiness. But if you're looking for this happiness as an overarching concept, you can always find ways to be unhappy, to disempower yourself, because you're looking for overarching, because you potentially are thinking as happiness as the ultimate end goal. I don't think of happiness as an end goal anymore. I think of happiness as the 1% progressions. So happiness with the podcast for me comes from, one, being present in the conversation I'm in and enjoying it. Two, doing the rep. I do the rep every week. I put the rep out. Boom. I ain't fucking worried about what Stephen Bartlett's doing and telling people over here, what Gary Vee's doing, what Lewis Howes is doing, what Rogan's doing. I couldn't give a fuck about any of that, because my path is different. How can I compare to these lads? They've potentially got more resources. They've got more leverage. They've got more this. They've got more years. They've got more. That's no happiness. But what's Frankie doing? Well, Frankie has done more. He's put out one more episode this week than he did last week. So why can't he be happy at that? That's it, mate. That's happiness right there. Happiness is progression. Make sure that you are being kind to yourself for the progression that you've truly had in your life, rather than what the internet is trying to tell you should have, or the internet gets you to dig up skeletons that don't need digging up in a lot of cases. So just be mindful. And a lot of the entrepreneurials that are guiding you and telling you to say gratitude and happiness and all this stuff. One, they're not happy. Two, a lot of them are narcissists. I know quite a few of them. They're narcissists, and they don't. And three, look at their life. Ask yourself, would you accept every part of their life in every element of what they're living now? And I bet you wouldn't, because with a lot of these top entrepreneurs that are out there on the internet telling you this stuff, they've lost their health. They've got their face looks like a train wreck because of how much stress has gone through their skin. So they're wrinkled. Then their skin's pale because they're unhealthy. They're eating poorly. They sleep long. Do you know what I mean? They're bleeding from their eyeballs. That's not the narrative that you potentially want to follow. I don't know if it might be your narrative, but it's not the narrative of most. So when you start to really understand self, and get on that journal and start really noting down even the positive and negative people in your life, that's when it all comes together. And then me and you have found gratitude in our cash flow businesses, because we realized that what we actually truly had was progression, and which then with progression we could find happiness. And we cannot fund content like this without the cash flow business. So we can't help the people we want to help without fucking doing what we should be doing and being grateful for the abundance of the cash flow that kicks off to be able to do this.
And what I noticed,
and that's the lesson.
This has happened with so many entrepreneurs where you sort of make your first 300, 400, $500,000 every year. All of a sudden that weight is off your shoulders, and now you have a chance to think about yourself, and then all of a sudden you start feeling unhappy. And I think what really happened, if I'm looking back, is you're sort of at this point where you're the bottleneck of the business. You don't think you can automate yourself and sort of switch in people. I didn't think I could have someone film e-commerce videos on my behalf. I didn't think that I could hire e-commerce experts that can do the consulting on my behalf. And at the same time, when you're sort of doing $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, that's not enough for you to go ahead and hire those parts in. So you're at this weird awkward spot where you're sort of still the bottleneck and you're unhappy, but only if someone like Frankie was able to tell you, hey, if you just pushed further to that million, 2 million, all of a sudden that unlocks a bunch of ability for you to start automating things you don't like and start funding your passions.
I would question if you were truly unhappy. Like you're saying you're unhappy at 500K, right? I don't think you were unhappy at 500K. I think you were unhappy because the internet told you were unhappy. You weren't unhappy. How can you be unhappy at 500K? If you listen to me, all of you, I want you to listen to me in this. If you cannot be happy at $20,000 a year, you cannot be happy at 500,000 or 1,000,000 or 2 million or fucking 10 million. Because happiness, right, is in progression, and happiness starts from today, from gratitude right now. Yeah, wherever you are. Because if you're in Australia or in the UK or in a Western country, you're in the top 1% in the world right now with more money in your bank account than anyone else across 90% of the globe, right? That is the moment you need to realize right now. If you're a nurse who gets $100,000 a year and actually gets fulfillment from a job, you're fucking rich. You're rich, you're abundant. You enjoy helping people. You get paid 80 to 100 grand a year for it in Australia, a top level nurse, right? 60 for a low level one, which is still great money for doing what you're actually passionate about. Yes, I understand it's hard work, but you wanted to do something to give back to the community. You get to do that and you get paid for it. That is happiness. Happiness happens there. No number gives you happiness. Happiness is not a future-based requirement. This, I'll be happy when I hit 1 million. I'll be happy when I hit 1.5 million. That's bullshit. You be happy right now. If you've got 350K revenue business, congratulations. If you've got 100K, congratulations. If you've generated 50K a year from a job, congratulations. Be grateful for where you are before you start looking at where you could be. Because that's where happiness is. Happiness comes from gratitude, people. You cannot be happy at any other number until you're happy in the moment you're at. You don't have to be happy with the situation you're living in terms of like, it doesn't have to be your end goal. I'm saying be happy now, wherever you are in this moment, because the present moment is all you have. The power of now is the book you should read by Eckhart Tolle. Be happy right now, because the happiness right now allows you to create more in the future. Yeah, as you go through the path. You can't create, the more stressed, the more angry you are about where you are, right? The more you hate your life, the less money you can create, the less abundance you can create, because you now put yourself in a state of fear, anger, and these are low vibrational frequencies, and you need to get into joy, gratitude, all these feelings that bring about higher energy status so that you can move through and move on and go through the trajectory. So just make sure that you're fully aware that the present moment, this moment right now, wherever you are, is all you know and all you have, right? Be grateful for your health. Be grateful for your mum, your dad, your sister, your brother, your child, everyone. Be grateful for the fact that you can see. You can see this road you're driving down. How many people are blind? Be grateful for the fact of like, you have a business that turns over some money. You have a business, right? You have a business. Some people have jobs. If you have a job, be grateful that I get to go to work. I get to go to the gym. I get to do business. I get to earn money online. I get to walk down the beach. I get to lift weights. I get to go to boxing. I get to go to if you reframe everything from I have to I get to, it changes your whole dynamic of your whole mental capacity. I get to sit down today in a home that I fully paid off in England, to sit down with an internet connection I'm paying for, and I get to have a conversation with you that can be leveraged, recorded once, and potentially heard by thousands of people. I get to do that. I don't have to do that. I get to do that. Remember that. You get to do everything in your life.
Do you think we had to let go of the accelerator and sort of go through that 1 to 2 year discovery process to learn gratitude, or what caused that, and how can we prevent this happening again? Like, what if we get to that next level and we're comfortable, and then is it going to be constantly happen? Well, what's your thoughts, Frankie?
As soon as you get to comfortable, you change it up. But you still have gratitude, but you change it up. I was living in Australia. I got to number 3 in education. You know, Jordan Peterson was ahead. 2 American podcasts were ahead of me in the podcast chart. I was grateful for being number 3, but I thought to myself, if I'm going to get to number 1 in education in Australia, I have to leave and go and grow audience from other areas and go and grow things in order to expand. So you need to expand. I need to be in the constant pursuit to be happy. I couldn't just be happy. I was happy in the moment, but you need to be in the constant pursuit of this end goal. And I like to have end goals that never end, right? So with this podcast, it's just constantly reiterating, trying to make it better and better and better. I don't even care about whether even if I got to number 1 in the world in education, which I believe I will get to eventually. I don't care when that happens, and when that happens, I'm not just going to stop. Just keep going, because now you get there, you got to stay there. Like it doesn't end. This is a long-term game for me. I play long-term games with long-term people. I in business, life, mindset, everything. Just be in the constant pursuit of what brings you, what drives you in business, in your mindset, in your personal life, what you want for your family, but also just pause for a moment every day and just think, do you know what? Pretty fucking good. This planet that we're on, this spinning rock's pretty fucking good. It's pretty abundant. Wow, I've created a lot out of nothing, really. When you think about it, you there with your e-commerce businesses and your brands, your drop shipping, right? Young lad sat in a room spinning cash, thousands of dollars dropping off while we're talking on this Zoom, right? Pretty fucking good, isn't it? Pretty fucking grateful, aren't you? You have to be. Why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you feel that? That's how you gotta feel that every day. You gotta start your day feeling that. Start your day with writing down the things that you're grateful for about the life that you're already living. Doesn't mean you can't have dreams about acquiring more, doing more, impacting more, all this stuff. Doesn't mean that. Just means take a moment. I'm grateful for the fact that I'm a nurse that gets to care for these cancer patients in the final days of their life, because I get to change their life, because I get to offer them some peace at the end of a beautiful life for them. That's beautiful. That's not about having a business. That's not about generating money online. That's about doing something that lights you up. And that is fucking beautiful. And that's happiness. Simple.
That is insane. Yeah. Like another thing that reminded me of is like, man, during that year of trying to figure things out, you're right. I was just consuming content. I see these successful entrepreneurs. They wake up when they wake up. They don't have an alarm. And all of a sudden I start doing that. I'm no longer waking up at the same time every day. And then I had to start switching the type of people I consume. I had to like listen to like the David Goggins, the Luke Belmar, that were like, yo, like work is hard. Like work isn't supposed to be fun. I hate waking up every day, but I still do it every single day. And then I started realizing that, dude, like every successful person, all these successful people you look up to, they don't love 100% of their business. There are things they do that they don't enjoy. And and what you see is just them enjoying all the things they do, and you don't see, it's like life is not supposed to be just all fun and easy. You're supposed to work, and work does lead to happiness.
You cannot, if you had everything you wanted right now, you'd be happy for a day, for a week, and then you'd be like, wow, that's it. That's how that feels. Yeah. Getting to number one education podcast in the world, right? Doesn't mean anything. It's just a goal that's massive, a massive goal to look at as a North Star. But on the way to that goal, I get to impact thousands of people, potentially millions of people by that point. Yeah. I get to. That's happiness. That's happiness, man. Like that's what you want. You don't. Happiness doesn't come at a monetary number. Doesn't come at a things number. Happiness is a feeling that's created when you take a moment to pause and reflect on what you truly have. That's it. That's happiness. Take a moment right now to reflect on what you truly have. You still have a mother, potentially. You still have your father. You still have your beautiful child's just gone to school. You know what I mean? Like all these things you have to be grateful for in your life, regardless of money. And you get to choose either to think about it, or you get to choose to tell yourself that you're unhappy because of this external thing over here. Society teaches you to be busy and consumed and obliterated your senses. You'd never get a chance to think. You never get a chance to pause, reflect. When you take a chance to pause and reflect, you'll see fucking life is so beautiful, man. So beautiful. Like even though I'm not exactly where I want to be in my life right now in terms of like in all these things I want to achieve, of course there are things I want to do. There's a mission. I'm on a mission, right? But I get to do this podcast. I get to drink this water. I get to sit in this apartment I've paid for. I told you. Like how many people? Like it's achievements. They're achievements. Yeah, it's not the fucking... Yeah, of course. I could have the penthouse at the Palm in Dubai and I could own one in New York for 36 million, right? But I don't own an apartment there. I own an apartment in Cambridgeshire in England. And what? Still an achievement, isn't it? It's on the path. It's on the path. It's somewhere on the path. You can't control the timeline of events. The timeline. I can't control the timeline. I can only control my action, my attitude, and movement towards it. That's it. It's all you can control. Take more action, gain more abundance. Have more gratitude, have more happiness. Simple.
That's beautiful. Last thing I want to jump in, tell us about your podcast. Like that's sort of your passion project, right? How long? I think, yeah, you said you've 120, 30, 40 episodes in. You've been doing for nearly 3.5 years. Tell us a bit about your podcast, Frankie.
It's just essentially, like I was saying before, it's just my... It's from a selfish point of view. I suppose I want to talk to people. I want to learn myself. I want access to people and access to human capital, and I want to record conversations that not only add value to me, but then I can leverage them and they can be played thousands of times. So essentially, what I've got the ability to access the minds of top people, and I can educate thousands of people on the back of that, but I don't have to say things twice. The guest doesn't have to say things 3,000 times. It's a leveraged task. So it's a leveraged task I get to enjoy every time that I do it. And it impacts thousands of people as a byproduct, because when you hear me speak, or I don't believe that you hear me speak. I hear you feel me speak, right? Because I love what I do and I love communicating and I love helping others move through what they need to move through and realize who they are, what they're about, and what the true essence of their point in being here is, not just to chase dollars or status or anything else. So that's what I get to do on a long form conversation level with the podcast. And I would like to hope that a fair few people have been impacted along the way of that, from free content that is freely available on Apple, Spotify, YouTube that I put out there. Now, on the path of me getting to do a podcast, I think there'll be a tipping point where I get paid back for it from the universe, in terms of maybe brand deals, maybe business opportunities, maybe YouTube revenue, maybe lots of money falling into me. And what am I going to do with that money? I'm going to take it and add more value to more people's lives, because I don't need to do it to buy a fucking Ferrari or fucking bullshit like that, because I've realized that the happiness isn't from that. The happiness for me in every part of my life comes from how I can infect or affect the environments around me, where, in terms of like, how can I look after my mum and my family? How can I help Stephanie, the single mum that's struggling right now? Well, I can't do that if I don't have capital to be able to go and help her, right? So that's what I want to do. I want to do more stuff like that. How can I empower Stephanie, the single mother that's sitting in an apartment that she doesn't want to, in wherever? How can I give her the fortitude to think that she has the ability to create an e-commerce brand in skincare? How can I do that? How can I do that with a conversation? How can I empower her thought process and mind to turn on that she can do that? That can be done by podcast form, and I believe that I can do that.
Frankie, what do you think allowed you to grow the podcast so fast and so big, get to that number 3 spot? Is it the guests that you brought on? What have you done differently to allow you to grow so quickly?
Because most people ask questions. You can ask questions to all of my guests the same way that I ask questions, but people don't just listen to my podcast, they feel it. Most people have podcasts that they listen to. You feel, because I am deeply passionate and I love the podcast and what it does, and I love it, and I'm in it, and I love it, and I learn it, and I feel it, and I'm on it, right? Not you. 0.1% of podcasters are like it. 0.1%. There are tens of thousands of podcasts started every week. You don't feel them. There's no feeling. You can't feel that they're in love with it. So there could be fucking 16 people this week with more capital, more podcasts. 1, they won't be there in 10 years. 2, that people don't feel them. They can't connect with them. So that is the key thing. It's about having something that connects with another human being, where they can actually feel that you actually want them to move forward. Whereas every other podcast is trying to monetize, is trying to sell them some shit, a course, a this, a that, a bullshit widget, a crap. I don't do none of that. I put a content removal ad on the podcast to say that if you've got content you want to remove, we'll remove it. You pay us, we'll remove it. Cool. But this is the content, long form, unedited, value. I've been doing it for 3.5 years, and I'll continue to do it for like another 3.5 years. And that's it. And people will change their lives on the back of that, because it's done from the right place. Most podcasts are not done from the right place. Most podcasts are specifically done for elevation of status for the host, specifically, or access to people or access to things. But even though I do get that as a byproduct of the podcast, I actually love being able to use the leverage conversations of the people that I have access to empower others to move. And people feel that.
Wow. I think that has just turned on a light bulb, because you're right. Like, I do these podcasts because I'm just a curious person. I want to dig into people's story, and I'm just like I love absorbing and learning from people. But that is a very sort of self-centered perspective. And I sort of need to start shifting that. I want to get curious and learn about people so I could share their sort of value to the world. And all of a sudden, then more enthusiasm and passion and feeling would come out.
People got to reframe why they do what they do. Because people have never got quiet and never got present enough, and because every Tom, Dick, and Harry started a podcast now, it's 15 people from this can start a podcast. They're not going to be there because they're not coming from the same place as me. Not going to be there for 10 years. Even if you've got more capital, more resources, more funding, more this, more that, Spotify and Apple signing, blah, 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 blah. You can't compete. 10 years, you can't compete. 10 years. Humans tell other humans about podcasts because they feel it. You can't compete on that, right? Because that's a feeling. If you've got thousands of people and then they tell thousands more people because they feel what you do, then that is a spiral effect that goes through. And that's how you win. But that's how you win at all levels of the game, in life and business, in personal development, in all areas of your life, in all areas of the whole situation you face. It's all from that. It's from, if you can make someone else move in a positive direction, feel what you're saying, and add value to them, then they want to be on your journey. They want to be with you. And I'd like to hope that there's thousands of people now that know that I'm for them and I want the best for them. And even if they've not met me, they can feel that I want them to fucking shift, that I want them to move, that I'm passionate about them getting further and finding the peace, the joy, and everything else that I've found along my way. And if I can use my experiences to garner that and to give them that, then so be it. And that's what it's about, mate. It's about, that's what fills me up. That's why when I go to when I'm in Australia, when I go to an airport and stuff like that, people stop me and they're like, fucking, they talk to me like they know me. And I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, where do I know this person from? And then about 2 minutes into the conversation, I'm like, oh, I listened to your podcast and this changed my, I thought I knew this person because they were talking to me like they knew me. That's because they feel it. You cannot talk to someone like you know them unless you feel what they're saying. That's why I believe ultimately it'll do what I know it will do, because I actually fucking love it. And I fucking love it on a different level of being. Like I cannot put it into fucking words how much I love what I'm creating with this and the ripple effect it's having on other people. That's what I love. It's not about fucking, I've lost 300K on a podcast, but I've not lost it because it's out in the ether as built value that I don't know when it's going to return, but it will return to me in abundance because I gave it away in the purest of ways.
Was it just week in, week out, and just consistently doing it every single week, or was there ever like a shift and something that just pulled you to number 2, number 3?
No. This is where people get it all wrong. There was never a shift with you from ecom either. There was never a shift in content removal. There's never a shift in anybody's stuff. There's never one day that goes bang, you can get it. No, there's not one day. It's 1% daily, and it happens every fucking day. And you take fucking action. You book fucking guests. You do guests. You do your value. You put it out. Boom, 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 and it just happens. And then one day you look there in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time, you're like, oh, I'm starting to get somewhere. But I don't look at analytics. Wow. I don't go there. The YouTube girl might say, oh, fucking hell, like we're doing all right. Or the TikTok girl says, oh, you've done 3 million on that fucking clip. Oh, wicked, great. But what about the reps? I'm doing the reps. That's great. I'm not going to fucking celebrate that. I appreciate it and I'm grateful. But now I'm getting back to what I actually love, the conversation, doing the rep. Carry on, because that's what it's about. I just enjoy this. The rest of it, it goes where it goes. It goes where it goes. People feel it. Because this is the most important part. If I'm not feeling it, they're not feeling it. If I'm not vibing, they're not vibing. If I don't love what I do, how can I expect other people to love what I do? So many podcasters out there don't even like podcasting. So many e-commerce guys don't even like e-commerce. Pointless.
And then I guess you were able to take your whole life experience and put that toward podcasting, right? You probably sort of do the exact same thing with booking guests, hitting them on all different angles, messaging them on all different platforms, messaging their brother, messaging their mother. Like, is that how you've been able to just bring on these amazing guests that people struggle to get on?
It's a multitude of ways, but I've got ways of connecting people that I don't think other people can connect on a way. There's a lot more to it than just hitting people up with random emails and this, that, and the other. It's not a way that can be systemized or outsourced. Me as a host, I have to do it all. The guests reach out. So I have a rule. I do all the invite. The podcast is invite only. I have to reach out to the guest to book them on, right? Why? Because if I reach out to them, it sets the energy and the levels at the right level. If someone says, "Hey, I've got a story and I want to tell it on your podcast," now they're wanting to come to serve themselves. I don't accept people like that because they're self-servers. Self-servers and me don't get on. We're here to add value to them, the listener, the people. We'll get value from each other and we'll have a great conversation. But at the end of the day, it's got to, as a leverage piece of artwork, because there's an art to podcasting. There has to be the give has to be to the audience. I don't let people sell on there. I don't let people just come on that, you know. And I set a standard, and the standard doesn't deviate from what I will and won't accept. If you've got on the Frankie Lee podcast, you've been invited. You've not booked yourself on there. You can't book yourself on there. Impossible. Has to be me reaching out to you.
And then
Standard.
do you sort of personalize every single outreach, and do you have a routine of like every day I'm going to reach out to 2 people that I look up to and I would want on my show?
Depends what you it depends what you're trying to achieve. It's all down to what you're trying to achieve. I have a vision in my mind, a vision that I couldn't even describe. I can describe, but I'm not going to describe because certain visions I keep to myself because they're mine, because I know what I'm going to do, and I don't need to tell the world exactly what I'm going to do, because then it just puts some things you've got to keep in your own thing. So I have this vision in my mind of what I'm going to do and what I'm going to achieve, and how it's going to manifest and come out in the world, and I just align everything with that. Right. And I don't want to tell you how to reach out to guests, because what I want you to do with your guests is you to do it in a way that is congruent with your vision. And if I tell you my way, now I'm telling you, and you're doing what Frankie Lee does. And that's not the way for you. The way that you reach out to guests and the way that everyone else does things in their life on here isn't predicated on what I say. It's predicated on them knowing themselves. So for you to reach out to guests and to get more guests and to get more things congruent with what you want, I want you to really get in here and understand this more, and then you can go and get everything that you want guest wise and attract all that in and do it in your own unique way, which is going to make you stand out as a podcaster because you're doing your way, not Frankie Lee's way. That makes sense. So as that'll add more value to you if you pick up what I'm saying there. Then, and I know when I'm saying that to you, I can see you understanding that. But that is how you should approach life. Look at the most important thing I've said to you is when you ask me these questions about podcasting, is I said to you about feeling, right? Where does the feeling come from in a podcast? The host. I cannot teach you feeling. You know what gives you that fucking feeling. And then whatever gives you that feeling will give the audience that feeling about your content. So that's an internal conversation. So too many people get caught up in the widgets, the Facebook ads, the shop, the moving parts, rather than what's this brand actually trying to do to the world? How's this e-commerce brand actually trying to impact the world? What am I trying to communicate? They get caught up in the color palette and the bullshit and this and that and the Facebook ads and the analytics and all this crap. Feeling. How do you want your e-commerce brand, your podcast, your whatever you want to do, how do you want that to make other people feel? If you can feel that in the moment when you create that content, then they stand half a chance of getting the feeling that you create. I want people to feel, when I'm on this conversation with you, and when I'm on a conversation on my podcast, I want people to feel moved towards taking action for themselves that empowers them towards more of what they want and less of what they don't want. Yeah, that's what I want them to feel. And I hope they've felt that throughout this whole fucking episode if they're still here. And that's why I tell you that.
Thank you so much, Frankie. I really appreciate your time today. This is a long episode. I could just feel your passion. Not only that, you just have the experience. Like, the reason why you do so, you have the experience to ask the right questions because you have your own business. And I think you're so transparent. You sort of truly want to help people. And I could feel that across the screen. I could just feel the honest passion and the authenticity that you really are doing this. And you sort of have the goal of serving the audience at the top of your mind. And I think that's what a lot of other people are missing out. And that's something that you've really got grounded on. And on top of that, you're sort of on that path of just figuring out gratitude, and you have a huge amount of gratitude for life. And that's something that you're helping me like remind myself that, you know, life is beautiful. I am lucky to be born in Australia, and I get to wake up in Australia every single day. And I think that's, you know, I love everything you brought to the table today, and I really appreciate your time, Frankie.
No, I appreciate you having me on, and like I just want to say to people that we can often forget, because of how abundant our lives are, really, when you break it down, we can often forget just how good we have it, and what we have, and how much we've progressed in this and the other. Just today, just go easy on yourself. Understand that you're exactly where you're meant to be. You can't control the timeline. You can only control the actions and the goals you're working towards. You can control your environment. You can control what you're surrounded by. You control the substances you take. You can control everything, but you can't control the timeline the world gives you the results in a lot of cases. Just be mindful of that. Stop trying to rush the timeline. The timeline is the timeline. It comes when it comes. Pick long-term games with long-term people, and always seek to add value first before you ask for anything. And in a lot of cases, you don't even need to ask. The world will give you it anyway. You just don't need to ask as much as you think you need to ask. And I hope you got value from the conversation. And if you want to listen to my podcast or anything like that, the Frankie Lee Podcast. And I appreciate your time and having me on.
Thank you so much, Frankie. Where can people find you on like Instagram, all the other platforms? What are everything that people can just follow and get more from you?
So at Frankie Lee Podcast on TikTok, at Frankie Lee on Instagram, Frankie Lee Official on Facebook if you're on there, Frankie Jay Lee on Frankie Jay on Twitter if you're on there. You'll find it, the Frankie Lee Podcast. Search it on YouTube, subscribe, whatever. It's Apple, Spotify. It's all on there. If you just search for that, or Frankie Lee Podcast, you'll find everything else you need to find, or frankielee.com, whatever. But the most important thing is, before any of that, it's about to be like, you know, be present today. This is about you. If you find me and I'm part of your journey, fantastic. But it's more about you today. It's more about you getting more out of yourself and having the gratitude for yourself. It's not really about me. So much love. Go and get that for yourself. And I appreciate all of you listening.
Thank you so much, Frank. And one thing I'd love to add, man, like I'm surrounded by these like e-com kids that are doing like 20, 30K days, and they listen to your podcast. They love your podcast. People that's been on your show, you know, they're like a fan. They're like, hey, featured on Frankie Lee's podcast. Like you've impacted a lot of people, and a lot of successful kids like look up to you that are killing it, and they love your show.
No, I appreciate that, and a lot of the young lads in e-commerce, especially in Australia, they make so much money, and they've made so much money so fast, and sometimes they don't have a kind of a mentor, a person to kind of make them see the full picture. You know what I'm saying? They when you achieve so much so fast from one methodology like e-commerce, it's really hard to get present and get one of the lads that I keep on the level is called Lester Javalona, and Lester is someone that can make 4, 5, 600K in a month, but he needs bringing into alignment sometimes to allow him peace. And sometimes I'm that older head that brings him into that alignment, you know. So hopefully that's what I allow for, like, the e-commerce lads, the younger ones coming up. It's like, yeah, I sell services and you sell e-com. I understand that. But at 34 years old, I've been punched in the face a lot. And it just allows them to put together the pieces that kind of gives them that to see that, because a lot of young lads that you're talking about, they think when they achieve 30K a day or 30K a week or whatever, 30K a month, which is still a lot of money, 30K a month, let's be honest, they think they've done fuck all and that they're nothing and that they're, do you know what I mean? A lot of lads in e-com feel that. I try and bring them all into my podcast world to give them the education on the spiritual part, the emotional part, the answering shadows part, and every other part, that so that they can be whole. And when you're whole, you can make more money anyway. But also get fulfillment from it. That's it.
I love that macro and micro picture. How on the macro you have these big goals and you're still pushing for big things, but at the same time you always keep reminding us that, hey, it's 1% every day. It's being happy for your health, taking that one step every day. And I think another thing I really got from this podcast is just the importance of being unique, doing you, finding your unique way. How do you truly do things in your own way? So thank you, Frankie.
Yeah, because I wanted to, because there's many things that I could tell you about podcasting that could, and you could start doing it my way, but it's not going to work because you are not me and I am not you. So I could look at your e-com store, copy it, and still not get the result. And you know why, and I know why, that if I give you the answers that you think that you're looking for, that they're not the answers you're really looking for. The answers you're looking for are inside you, and I believe that I can help people understand that methodology and allow them access to it so that they can empower themselves through my content and through me guiding them to find the best version of themselves. I guide you to the destination that you actually want, not what I tell you you want. Most people on the internet tell you what you want. Gary V, all this bullshit tells you what you want, or tells you these buzzwords that you think you want. You don't want that. You've never fucking wanted that. It's a false narrative. You're being bullshitted. It's not the truth. It's not your truth. How the fuck can I know your truth? Impossible. Neither does he. As long as you're being taught by the mentors in your life, by the people that lead you along the path, as long as you're being taught rather than to ask what to do, ask for the framework of how to get the answer.
That is beautiful. Thank you so much for your time today, Frankie. Guys, if you guys made it this far, I just want to say thank you for watching the whole episode. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully you guys got some value today. This is another episode of the podcast. Please let me know your thoughts. I've been reading every single review. Drop a review on Spotify and Apple. I want to get feedback. Thank you so much for your time, guys. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Peace out.